Good evening. Thank you everyone for coming. I would like to call the meeting to order. This is the March 20th regular board meeting for Medina City Schools. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated on the agenda. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Chambers, if you'll call roll, please.
Mr. Nichols.
Here.
Mr. Ross.
Here.
Mr. West.
Here.
Ms. Pritchard.
Here.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from our meeting on February 27th.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Are there any questions, comments, items to be added or amended to the minutes from the board? Hearing none, Mr. Chambers?
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Mr. Nichols.
Aye.
Mr. West.
Yes.
Ms. Pritchard.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additions, removals, or modifications to this evening's agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Pritchard.
I'll second. Oh.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ross. Mr. Chambers?
Ms. Pritchard.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Mr. Nichols.
Aye.
Mr. West.
Yes.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Sable.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's nice to see a lovely, smiling audience here. I think Brian has brought all of Canavan today. So awesome to see. Brian, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Condit, and I'm the principal at Ella Canavan, and I am very proud to be here today with some of Canavan's finest students and our finest teachers to talk about some of the things we've been doing this year and some of the things we've done to look at the portrait of a bee and bring it to life in our own building. One of the things we pride ourselves on at Canavan is the opportunity that we give our students. And one of the things that Canavan does really well are the extracurriculars that we provide. And I'm very proud of what our staff is able to do and provide for our students. And this year is really the first year since COVID and the pandemic that we've really been able to do all the clubs that we used to do in the past. So this year we brought back to full swing theater club, glee club, bell choir, a garden club's coming back, robotics club, a Pokemon club, a math hoops club, a 24 club, chess club, just to name a few of the things that have come back to give our students opportunities and kind of let them take learning beyond the walls of the classroom. So behind me, I have several Canavan students that are here to share with you some of the things they've been doing this year at the building, along with two outstanding educators at Ella Canavan. The two teachers that are with me today are Mrs. Moklitz, and she's our gifted intervention specialist, and Mr. Bafumi is a fourth grade teacher at our building and an advisor of many different clubs that go on at Canavan. And then many of my Canavan friends are also here, so why don't you guys come on up and we'll introduce you, and then we'll kind of turn the presentation over to Mrs. Moklitz and Mr. Bafumi, and they'll kind of go through kind of what we're doing here at the building. But I have Stephen and Wesley and Luke and Sam and Chase and another Luke and then Nathan. So we're excited to have all of these Canavan students here to talk about a couple of different clubs they're involved in, a couple of different programs they had, and then Mrs. Moklitz, we were even able to convince a couple high school students to come and talk about a program that Mrs. Moklitz just recently started up with Canavan and Northrop and the high school. So we're excited to share all these opportunities with you today. So I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Moklitz to kind of introduce her part of the presentation, and then Mr. Bafumi will follow.
Hi, thanks for having us. This is really exciting. So we're going to start with talking about our rocketry project that we did last spring and we'll do again this spring. So I'm going to have who starts off with our rocketry. So let's, you guys just kind of spread out. There we go, so we can kind of see.
So last year in our rocketry project, we were learning about Newton's law of motion and how things fly.
When we were building it, we had to put a lot of glue on it so that the surface isn't rough. So it's, because if it was rough, it would be less aerodynamic.
We also got to go outside and paint it. So here's mine, and we got to use spray paint. It was really fun.
And we got to like launch them, and there was like a launch pad, and like they went like so high that like you couldn't even see them, and like I don't know where my rocket went.
Here's a picture of, yeah,
Oh yeah, that's me on the left building.
Sam launching. Perfect. And then we have, this is Eliza Northrup, kids also. And I want to talk about, so I'm going to segue right in here to, we developed a mentorship project new this year that we're really excited about to start in the gifted program. So I developed a mentorship between National Honor Society students and gifted elementary students. And what I really wanted to do is to give my elementary students a view of what future endeavors awaits them at the high school. And forming this mentorship and menteeship is a great, like, it goes hand in hand with our SOAR initiative and Project of a Bee, Portrait of a Bee. I'm a little bit nervous. So what it entails, the first thing we did was brought the elementary students to the high school and gave them a tour. I really wanted to show them what courses could really lead them to their careers in the future and show them that it's not such a scary place. And to begin this, I kind of wanted to bring up my high school friends. I brought two of the very best Sophies that I could find, Sophie Mockowitz and Sophie Shoke. And if they can kind of tell you some of the things that they loved about this mentorship with the high schoolers as well, that would be awesome.
Hi, my name's Sophie Shoke, and I'm an NHS student, which is why I got to be included in this program. And I loved this program. I loved the day. I think it was such a good idea because, like, 5th grade me never thought I was going to get to see a brain dissected in high school, let alone ever. And I think it was such a good way to introduce them to so many things that they've never even thought about or heard of. Like, I wish that those ideas had been put in my head at such a young age so I could have considered all of the fields out there and kind of reached out more into different things as I got older. Like, I know I'm going into engineering, so like seeing the AP physics experiments and the math classes like would have been such a cool thing for me to see at such a young age. So I think it was a really great thing, and I hope they continue to do it as years go forward.
I'm Sophie Monklitz, and I agree. I think it was just so important just to have that like exposure at just such an early age to all the things you can do like at the high school and in the future. Like, when I was scheduling for my freshman year, my sister took one look at my schedule and was like, I don't even know what half of these classes are. I've never seen them. I didn't even know we had them. So I think it's just so important to like kind of get a preview of what your high school years would be like.
Thank you. Thank you. That's awesome. And moving forward, our next step will be we're going to have, we actually visited the high school, and now the high schoolers will come to the elementary buildings. So we, in late February, we took a trip. There were 24 National Honor Society seniors paired up with 12 gifted elementary 5th graders.
The first class we went to was biomedical engineering, and we got to like learn like cell division and like how cells duplicate, and got to draw them with chalk. So
After that, the teacher walked in with a bag of cow eyes, and we got to feel the cow eyes, and it was really gross, but it was also cool. And then after that class, we went to robotics club. Well, not club, just robotics class. And the thing on the ground was like, so you would step in the first edge, like on that side by the teacher, and then you would go to the other edge, and then the robot thing would tell you how fast you went from one end to the other end. And then we got to see all of the high schoolers like programming and creating robots like this one that we get to do in our robotics club at school.
The next class we went to was AP Biology. We got to crush up strawberries and put alcohol in it, and then we extracted the DNA.
Then the high school students showed us a bioluminescent jellyfish. So we went into a dark room and we saw it glow.
The next class we went to was anatomy, and Dr. B got to let us touch 2 sheep hearts and dissect a sheep brain, and we got to feel another cow eye, and it was really cool how he let us do that.
He showed us the different parts of the sheep brain and what they do.
And he explained that one part of the brain does one certain thing, and the other part does the other certain thing. So he just taught us all about it.
He also showed us about the brainstem and how it connected to there's a bump on the back of your neck, and that's what it connected to.
So the next class we went to was honors debate, and that was a class where we went into and we just sat down and we watched the high schoolers talk really, really fast and debate on each other about space.
The next class we went to was AP History and AP Statistics. In AP History, we learned about they were learning about World War II.
In AP Statistics, I cannot say that word for some reason. This kid, the high schooler, he memorized a ton of pi, and that was really cool and amazing.
The next room we went to was the Zen Den. They had this axolotl named Toothless, and he was really cute.
And in the Zen Den, there were a ton of fidgets, and there was a cart, and it was bigger than me, and it was really cool how the principal and stuff bought that for the high schoolers to do.
And there was a Zen garden, and there was little sand pits that you could play in, and there was tools you could play in, which was cool.
And in the Zen Den, it was just time for us to relax and have a break. And we wish we have one at our school.
Okay, and then Sam's going to talk a little bit about, so we started back up Tech Club at Canavan, actually every single elementary. And so Sam's going to kind of talk about Tech Club and what we're doing, Sam and Luke, and then Sam's going to do a little presentation, and then we're going to go into drones.
So we had to build robots from scratch, and we had to add a bunch of sensors and each do something else, do something different, and yeah, we got to do that, and then we're gonna sumo wrestle, and I have a program, but it doesn't really work.
Do you want to do it on the ground? Yeah.
It would go straight, but it doesn't really work because there's no black line it would detect right there. So you can't.
Perfect. Okay, and now we're going to attempt to fly. Oh, you want to talk to Luke? I'm going to start parents.
And then the picture shows the sumo bots and how they're fighting in the circle. It was just really cool how we got to start that up again.
Wait, do I do mine? Or no? Do I do the other
Bring it
one?
on back. Or do you want to go up there, Luke? You want to land it on his hand?
Wait, do I do the other one?
Do you want to fly it too? You can fly that one. Nope. Chase,
You're landing in your hand.
okay. Chase, you want to go out there? We'll do one more and then. And these code just like Spheros. It's black coding. And so they're just coding these just like the robots. They use black coding with these as well. Just like a Sphero, it really codes the same way. Okay. We might just go out on a high note.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, I think that's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, so the next club that I have here is Mr. Bafumi. And Mr. Bafumi runs our 24 club, in which a couple years ago I brought the 24 club here and we kind of played 24 with some board members, and it's very challenging to do. So 24 club is where you get 4 numbers and you have to add, multiply, subtract, or divide all 4 numbers, using them only once to get 24. The other club that Mr. Bafumi runs is a great club that is called it's called Hoops, Math Hoops. And I'll let Mr. Bafumi fill you in on Math Hoops, but it's sponsored by the Cavs. And the boys behind me had a unique opportunity a couple weeks ago to actually go to the Cleveland Clinic courts and do Math Hoops live. So we're going to talk a little bit about Math Hoops, and they're going to go over the game with you. And this is a club that meets once a week to build math skills and math foundational skills and really work on the kids' math skills. So I'll let the boys introduce and Mr. Bafumi talk about Math Hoops.
All right, so the boys are just going to set it up just so you can see how the game actually works. It's a company or a nonprofit, Learn Fresh is what they're called, and they work together with the NBA and WNBA to put this game together. And so it's basically trying to make math fun and trick the kids into practicing their math. And it works because the kids love it. So you can see there's a board here, and what the kids do is they're going to roll the dice, and then they have to, whatever 2 numbers come up, they have to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And from that, they take those 4 numbers, and you can see on the board, there's a bunch of different numbers on the board, and they have different colored circles. And so one of their numbers, they will use to choose who to have shoot. So boys, if you could show them the cards that you have. These are NBA and WNBA players, and it shows just a bunch of different ones. And then on the back, it actually has their actual stats from the season. And so based on their real stats from last season, it gives them a shooting percentage. So they have to, after they do the adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, they then have to say, okay, this person's a 40% 3-point shooter, or do I go for the 50% 2-point? So they're using all kinds of critical skills just to play basketball. And so we had a draft, and it was so fun because at the beginning they were all picking like the big name players. And then after we got into the season, they started to see, oh, wait a second, I should actually look at the stats and not just, who's on the highlight reel. So that's just a game they love. And then also they got to go to Math Hoops Live, and the kids will tell you a little bit more about that. But what they did is they played the board game, except they actually got to go to the Cleveland Clinic practice court. And so when they rolled the dice and did the math and they selected a shot, they actually had real people shooting on the court. As you can see from the picture, it's Lamar Stevens on the left. And I will say he started playing great after we got to hang out with them, and kids got to give him some pointers. So he's been playing great ever since we saw him. And then we had Cece the mascot, and the kids had an awesome time. They put on a phenomenal event. So the boys are just going to show you a quick round. They're each going to just do one round so you can see how it goes. They actually, as they get into it, they have a shot clock too. So it just helps increase the speed, the quick thinking, using the information. And then they're just going to say a few words about it. All right, so who's going first? Okay, so he rolls the dice, and then he has this whiteboard here where he's going to do the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Then he places his piece on there. And so he picked the red 3, to shoot from. So he picked the player. So they're broken down by positions too. Spins it, makes the shot. So it's 2 points. So. And at the beginning of the year, it's funny because like an entire game that play 10-minute halves, they would get maybe 5-10 shots each per game, and now they're getting 30 shots off in a game because they're just getting so good. Their math facts are so much better. They're analyzing who they want to shoot with a lot quicker. Another thing too is it's the program is really big on sportsmanship and teamwork. So we talk a lot about, being good sports, working with the team, because they normally have a partner during when we normally play. And so they get sportsmanship points along with, we do keep track of like wins and losses, and they have other skill worksheets to work on different math skills like the percentages and different things like that. So that's how they play, and the kids have a blast with it. You each scored 2 points. Awesome. So, yeah, and these other guys are all in the Math Hoops Club as well. So, actually, if you guys want to come talk, I'll clean up for you. See you guys. If you don't mind.
Hello, my name is Nathan, and I'm going to be talking about math hoops. By going every Thursday, I got better at my math facts. Playing this game is a lot of fun and is a good way to practice your facts.
Hi, my name is Luke, and I'll be telling you about math hoops. Each week, I would challenge a different opponent and learn more math skills. I got to play with my friends, pick my own team, and get better each week. When we went to Math Hoops Live, we got to meet a Cavs player, Lamar Stevens. He taught us that learning in school helps you in basketball and other sports. Cece, Amar, and Lamar Stevens signed our shirt, my hat, and my jersey that I'm wearing now.
We also met Cece, the mascot from the Cavs, at Math Hoops Live. He only scored 5 points there, but Lamar Stevens scored 60. Lamar Stevens taught us sportsmanship is key in sports and in school, and they also signed my shirt. That's it.
So that is just a highlight of some of the things we have going on at Canavan, but these are some outstanding programs that really take that learning beyond the classroom and really get our kids to embrace that love of learning, which is what we want at Canavan, and really take that portrait of a bee and make those connections. I think it's really important that our kids are making connections with high schoolers and that mentorship continuing there, and then that continuation of seeing how math is real world applications and taking that outside the classroom. So just a little taste of what's going on at Canavan. So thank you for your time. Hopefully if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or so is Mrs. Moklitz or Mr. Perfumi or the children.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. I have never dissected a brain or have touched cow eyes, so I wish I would have been included that day to experience some of that. That sounds really cool. I do wonder, is it possible if the board members could see the rockets that were launched up close, if you don't mind?
They've been through some wear and tear, so.
Can the boys come up and show it, whoever's they are, and just tell us a little bit about them, if you don't mind?
I tried to convince Mr. Condon to let you launch those today. He didn't think it would be such a good idea in here.
Well, thank you very much. Maybe next time you have a launch, you can let the board know, and maybe we can check that out. That would be very cool. Thank you.
It's really nice. What's this made of?
Awesome. I had a question for you, Brian. Is that high school program where the girls talked about it? Is this the first year of that?
Yes, it's the idea of Mrs. Moklitz, and she came and said, "I want to talk to Dr. Totona, and I would like to start this mentorship program, and it's a great opportunity for our students and for the high school students to make those connections."
Yeah, well done.
I know that block coding you're talking about, and that's something very similar to what you see as an adult in engineering and manufacturing. So it's nice to see that the youth are getting it now. And also I imagine that drones are pretty popular. And I have to ask, how's the Pokemon Club? Is that popular?
Huge. It's huge. Yes, and that was started. Funny, that one was started by Mrs. Nickley, and that one was started because she saw a rising increase of Pokemon cards coming in, and she said, "How can I grab onto this and use it to my advantage?" And she learned about Pokemon, learned about the game, and started the club so that she could embrace students bringing in the Pokemon cards rather than it being a deterrent from the classroom. It was an encouragement and a positive experience for the kids.
That's good to hear. So
yeah.
Well, we appreciate you all coming in and sharing your time with us. Boys, you can add public speaking to your resume because you did a fantastic job sharing your experience with us this evening, and we really appreciate the families coming in. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There were a couple things that I just wanted to comment on quick. The Pokemon Club, that caught my ear because, I still play Pokemon. Not the cards, but I have more responsibilities, I guess, now than when I was in 5th grade. So can't buy the cards, but can buy the $60 game, every couple years. And when I was in school, that was when Pokemon was first getting really big, when I was in 4th grade. And they banned Pokemon cards from the school till after I graduated. So it's awesome to see that it's being embraced, and there is a space for kids to enjoy that and kind of indulge in that stuff. The other thing that I wanted to mention was the Sophie squad mentioned that this was something that was awesome that they would have loved in 5th grade. I completely agree. Rockets weren't a thing that were touched when I was in school unless you did AP physics, and then you could build a rocket. Otherwise, you just did regular physics, and you sat there with a pen and paper and just had fun that way instead. And the mentorship that is going on between the elementary school and the high school is awesome to see, because I know as a kid that was super into video games, super into technology, those type of things, I always had a want to learn things like robotics and the newest, coolest technology, but I never had an outlet for that, especially in school. And my parents, being in the medical field, had no clue what programming was, were not going to learn it, had no way to understand it. So having that gap there to kind of bridge it and build interest in younger kids is just an incredible thing. And I fully support it. My stamp of approval for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Condon and Canavan.
And our 2 high schoolers that also came in. Thank you for taking the time as well. Thank you.
So are you girls both seniors? We are. You're going to Ohio State?
I'm not. I am, though.
You are, though? Yeah. Okay. That's where my daughter's headed next year. Where are you headed?
I'm going to Valparaiso. It's in Indiana. I'm going to swim there.
Well, congratulations to both of you. We're getting close.
Mr. Sable, is that program for the high schoolers, 5th grade, is that something we can do in all the buildings? Or is that...
That's our goal.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Okay.
We just wanted to start small, and then we'll get much bigger.
Oh, I got you. Well done.
And those are, with the redistricting and the consolidation, those are the kinds of things that we will be able to do more often. Just because the ability to transport the students with the less buildings and having more students together makes more opportunities available. Things like transportation and things like that are much easier and more cost effective. Last thing I have for this evening is I wanted to discuss with the board scheduling an April work session to discuss facility projects as well as potential bond and operating levy for November. And wanted to see if there were dates and times that would work for the board. We do have several collaborations and communications out with the community right now. Kids First has a survey out. Well, we've been working on multiple roundtable sessions, both virtually and in person, with staff and/or with the community. And we're planning on having all of that work wrapped up by the end of this month. And would like to have some proposals to present and discuss with the board at the April meeting. In addition, we'd like to invite Kids First to come and present to the board as well as the administration the results that they receive from the survey that is open through Wednesday. And I want to encourage people to access that through Kids First website as well and through social media to complete that survey. The more feedback we get, the better. I know we had discussed a potential date when Ms. Pritchard and Ms. Parkhurst and I had met last week to review the agenda. And I'm trying to find it.
I think, yes, April 11th.
April 11th.
It's a Tuesday. And we talked about if that works for the board, perhaps instead of having a regular meeting on April 17th, we would push that back a week to April 24th.
That's a Monday, right?
Correct. If
So
that-
push the regular meeting back 1 week. Have the work session a little bit earlier. We were talking 4:30 or 5 o'clock. The work session will be structured differently than this meeting. It wouldn't be a formal setup. We would put the tables in a circle, have our admin team here, and it would be a true work session. Work sessions typically do not have public comment. Of course, the public is welcome to attend, but the intent is really to work towards a finalized plan that we could attach dollar value to and discuss what a bond issue would look like, because obviously we have multiple options out there right now that we're getting feedback from the community on. So April 11th.
And also to clarify, as Mr. Sable said, we would be talking through those items, but we would not be taking any kind of action at that meeting. It would just be a work session, no action items.
So April 11th at 5:30, you said, or 5? Oh, 4:30?
Is everyone able to make 4:30, or we can do later, 5?
I can do 4:30.
Okay.
And that's a Tuesday?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that would be here.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And we could also arrange, I believe, for dinner.
We can.
Thank you. Mr. Nichols, is that okay for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever you want. In addition, I also just wanted to mention, just because it's on the top of my head, as we head into summer, we are going to need to find a different location over the summer to hold our board meetings because they're going to be redoing the roof over this room. So this room's going to be shut down for at least a portion of the summer, correct?
We think we can work around that.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Yeah, it's, this roof does not have the same lining underneath of it, so we're not anticipating anything falling down.
That's good news.
We'll play it by ear.
Well, if you do need a room, you might check with Root Candles. They have a big community room that they might be willing to.
We're required to hold board meetings in district for formal meetings. Yep. Yeah, but we'll come up with some suggestions of locations if we need to move it. But that was just a heads up. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, the district bank balance increased. I put a decrease on there, but the district bank balance increased $20.7 million in February to $75 million. This is $3.7 million below last year at this time. 5-year forecasted revenues were below last February by $35,000. This is a large portion of that was state foundation, property tax allocation, which accounted for a larger decrease than the 35, but the rest of the revenues pushed that back up to only 35,000. 5-year forecasted expenditures were above last February by $2 million. All expenditure categories except for capital accounted for this increase. The sales tax fund balance decreased by to $3.1 million. The district spent approximately $8,400 on the fleet master lease agreement. The rec center capital fund balance increased to $262,000. The district spent $0 in February, received approximately $8,900 from the city for prior expenditures, and we also had the transfer that the board approved last month. The district received $105,000 in investment income for February. The total collected for the current fiscal year is approximately $195,000 above last year at this time. And finally, the district forecasted funds true day cash is up to 223 days. This is up from January by 80 days and below last year by 22.29 days. If you want to look at what is important, it's that last number, the 22.29 days below last year at this time. Questions? Thank you.
Okay, if there's no questions for Mr. Chambers, we'll move on to board communication. We'll start with Mr. West.
Thank you, Ms. Parkhurst. A couple things. Facility meeting earlier this month. Ryan was kind enough to go over quite a few things. At that time, the high school elevator was only half done, but now that's complete, which is good. He also talked about the HVAC automation being done in Waite is now complete and Northrop is next. And he indicated that it's like 10 minutes to get Waite ready for the day and that they're looking like there's going to be a lot of cost savings. So maybe as you get some historical data, you can, share that. I think that would be of interest, see where historically we were and where we're going. You already mentioned the roof over this part of the building at the high school being done. Paving of the band lot and repainting of the lines green, no blue color this time. Playground, the back parking lot at the Ella Canavan is getting repaved. Waite's getting repaved. Graduation is coming up, and I don't know if you found a company to pressure wash the stadium yet, but I know that was you were talking about that. And what else I got it from my notes? I I got talked with Alex Gabrielson, our engineering, drawing, and video teacher, and his kids threw up a big cheer when the tech department delivered some new used computers for them that can actually run their video software. So they were tickled pink. So I asked him to let me know how that went and how those how well that worked for them. So, but they literally did cheer. So.
Yeah, we want to really thank you for that donation. Everyone was very excited about that, and I know Mr. Gabrielson was more than ecstatic to get those from Plastipack.
It wasn't me that gave the donation. It's my employer. So, shout out to them. I had the privilege of attending the Hall of Fame dinner. I'll let Jeannie talk in length of that, but it was a really good evening, and I look forward to doing that again in a couple of years, maybe. And finally, over the weekend, my wife and I went to Jazzmatage, which was all the jazz bands of Medina City Schools and their fundraiser, and it was a really good time. The jazz bands, the middle school, the high school, or both high schools, both middle schools, they're just phenomenal. They had a huge amount of gifts that you could buy tickets and throw in for a raffle. They had silent auctions going on. The community support, it was just phenomenal, the number of businesses and individuals that were supporting our arts programs here at the high school. And I had the pleasure of talking with Liz Koussis, cafeteria manager. They did all the cooking, it turns out, and the food was phenomenal. We hear that quite frequently from Mr. Sable, that the food at the high school is very good, and so I stopped and talked to her, and she was tickled pink and invited me to come by sometime or any of the board members to come by if we're in the building. So that was really nice, and it was a good time. So I would encourage everyone, public, look up the band schedule. They've got a lot of concerts coming up. There's another jazz concert coming up towards the end of May. But if you missed this one, go to them. They're phenomenal. So, but that's about it.
I just want to echo Mrs. Koussis and the food service folks. They do a great job. Always do a great job. Thank you, Brian. That was a great, fun presentation. Awesome. Thank you, Canavan. Just one thing. Last week, we were invited by the language arts teachers to Shakespeare. They had Great Lakes Theater instructors come into the classroom, and so I went and I talked to Stephanie Itterbraut a little bit, and went into Mr. Weatherby's class. Yeah, and it was such a fun atmosphere. I'm not really a Shakespeare person, only because I've never been taught Shakespeare, but I'm getting into it as I'm older, and understanding his genius for writing. But it was so fun to watch the kids engage with these instructors. And after the period was over, then I talked to the instructors, and they also echoed how excited the kids are here in Medina, because they said that they go to some schools and some classrooms, and it's, some of the kids don't want to be there, and some of the kids aren't really interested. But they said not here in Medina. Both instructors had just high praise for our kids and their level of engagement with Shakespeare. So it was fun to watch, and I'm glad I got a chance to go. And kudos to Stephanie and Mr. Weatherby for doing that, because she said they used to do it, and then they canceled it through COVID, and now they brought it back. And just keep that going. I think the kids really loved it. So thank you for that opportunity. That's all I got.
Mr. Nichols?
Yeah. So the Finance Committee met last week, I want to say, and we went over numbers, and the numbers were big and they looked right. And then we also had a community member sit in and kind of give a little bit of a history of some of the neighborhoods in Medina and how the homes were built and stuff like that, which was interesting to see and hear. Quality and not quality that has been put into our community many years past, much older than me. And then we also had Ryan sit in and give the committee the presentation that I'm sure most people that are here or listening have seen about the redistricting plans and what is going on with that. We did not have curriculum due to a couple illnesses, and I have one ask as the needy board member. This week is actually my birthday coming up, so for everybody listening, everybody here that has kids, I have one ask. Try and meet your kids where they are. And what I mean by that is not, if you drop them off at the mall, make sure you pick them up. I mean, if your kids have interests that maybe you don't necessarily share, take an hour out of the day, just once, over the next month, and go and just enjoy whatever they're enjoying. Try and understand, why is this cool? We talked about Pokemon. Some kids still really interested in Pokemon, even in high school. Go and just figure it out. Play Pokemon. They probably make up the rules anyways. So it'll be an interesting and creative experience. If your kids are into video games, sit down, maybe do a little co-op. And one of the things that my family actually did was we had a tropical fruit box that was delivered, and we tried a bunch of different tropical fruits like pink pineapples and papayas and like fresh mangoes from like the Caribbean, Colombia, Mexico, those type of things that we don't get here, or if we do get them, they're 6 weeks old and have been stuck in the back of a truck for the last 3.5 weeks. So it was just an interesting thing, trying to work on expanding his palate, my son, and that's my ask as your needy board member.
Happy early birthday, Joe. Yeah.
I just want you to know this is Joe's new birthday shirt, so just so you know. I really wasn't going to mention the Hall of Fame, but I'd like to thank Mrs. Busby and her secretary, Deb Blasek, for such a great job. It was a nice turnout, and while we didn't have everyone there, the people that were there were very appreciative of the award, and I've received a few letters already. So I appreciate them and everyone who came. I'd like to mention that Nick Brewer won the Silver Key Award for writing, and he had it displayed at Kent State. The Claggett musical, Beauty and the Beast. After you ever see Beauty and the Beast live or on TV, you're always wondering, how are these kids going to do this? And I have to tell you, they were awesome. This is probably one of the best musicals I've ever seen, high school or middle school. They were just outstanding, and everybody, I think, in the audience had a great time. I went to the Shakespeare residency last week, and I sat in on 2 classes, Macbeth and Hamlet, and it was a lot of fun. The kids were really engaged. Actually, the Hamlet kids were a little bit more engaged than the Macbeth kids, which I don't understand why, but they were. I'd also like to congratulate our 2 wrestlers, Andrew Supers, who finished in 3rd place, and Blaine Chrisman, who finished 5th place in the state wrestling. Gymnastics team finished 3rd in the state. I went to Jazzmatazz. It was really wonderful. And I'd like to give a shout out to Matt and Colin for all their continued efforts in helping the band in the pack. And don't forget that the spring musical tickets are now available. The Career Center news, reminder to sophomores, get your applications in for next year. Adult Ed has numerous programs available, and this Thursday from 6 to 7:30, the Career Center will have Dragster Night. All the satellite programs in the county will compete for county honors. So it includes, I don't think it includes Cloverleaf, but it does include St. Ambrose. So I think that'll be a fun night. I plan to attend. And then the library will host on April 1st from 10:30 to 12:30 the Living Library at the Brunswick branch. And what this is 5 people come in and talk about their lives, and you can select which one you want to go to. The 2 that I remember and I think are really, the first one I think is really important, is Raising Children of Another Race. And the other one that's stuck in my mind because who's doing it is Life After Being a Felon. I think, and then there's 3 other ones that, I don't know, just didn't really strike me, but there are 5. And then I'd just like to remind everybody, spring sports have started. Come out and support the teams, and please, everyone, have a safe spring break and make sure you're relaxed. So thank you.
Thank you. Just a few things I'll take a minute to add as well. The Hall of Fame dinner was fantastic. I know there's a lot of work that goes into that, so thank you to the committee and to Mrs. Busby and her assistant Deborah and Jared. Phenomenal event. Was seamless, so I really enjoyed that event. The Shakespeare also, now, Mrs. Pritchard, I did attend Macbeth, and I thought they were very engaged, so that may have been. I was around lunchtime, so I was in Mrs. Kreiner's class, and again, another opportunity that I wish would have been available when I was in high school. I may have gotten a little bit more out of it, Macbeth, had the instructors been there and to help with that. The art show kickoff was a huge success, even though it was pouring rain and a miserable evening. The lobby of Huntington Bank was full. Cookies from our cafeteria from Liz, and those were phenomenal. So thank you, Mrs. Busby, for organizing that, and the help of Huntington Bank for providing the space. The kids' art show, the kids' artwork was fantastic, and that is still available for people to attend. The various businesses, I believe information is on the website for which businesses have the artwork displayed, and that is through the end of the month. So I encourage everyone to check that out if they haven't already. And then lastly, I have had the opportunity to attend some, not all, of the Innovation Awards and the Going the Extra Mile Awards that have been out being presented throughout the district. And just, we have such phenomenal staff doing such great work, incorporating the portrait of the bee into their classwork, into their clubs, like Canavan showed this evening. And there's just such great work. It's so exciting. And I am amazed every time I attend a presentation to see what is happening. So I look forward to attending more of those. And I thank everyone for all their work that is involved in that. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chambers, action items. Oh, I apologize. My computer went to sleep, so I got to get back on target here. Okay, public participation. It looks like we do have someone that signed up, and I apologize if I do not say your name correctly. Marita Rains? Okay, if you would like. Well, good, thank you. If you would like to come up to the podium, and I will go over the rules for public comment. Attendees shall register their intention to participate in the public portion of the meeting upon arrival. After those that have registered have spoken, if time allows, the board president will ask for public participation from all other attendees. Please state your name, address, and affiliation. Please keep comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard, and all statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marita Rains, and I live on Foot Road, and my grandson goes to Claggett, and he's in the 8th grade. And I was a little concerned because last week he was suspended for messing around in music. And I said, what was all that about? And he goes, I'm just bored, Grandma. And I said, how can you be bored in music? Tell me about that. He says, I don't know. Everything that he says is, I don't know. So I said, all right, I don't understand how music doesn't take you away, doesn't inspire you. And so it just, I was confused by it. He also is an only child that doesn't know how to get along with his, with his peers, apparently. And so he had a few problems there, but I had to ask and just kind of voice my concern as to how he could be bored in something as beautiful as music and playing an instrument. So that's something that I told him we need to work on, and if he can't, if he can't relate to what he's doing in there, then maybe next year he's going to have to come out of it, which I really hate to see. I just hate to see him do that, because to me, music, learning about reading music is just something that I always wanted to do, but apparently that's, not where he's at. Anyway, so that's one of my concerns. The other concern that I had was I was talking to him, and we were talking back and forth, and I said, well, he said something about subtracting 16 from 23, and in my mind, I just knew the answer right then. And I said, okay, you tell me what is 16 from 23? And he couldn't tell me right away. He had to actually stop and think about it. And that concerned me. Okay, is this a Common Core thing where you have to write down? Because that's how he learned math, was Common Core. And so at 14 years old, he's still having to think what 16 from 23 is. And that to me was a concern. Okay, so we need to address these, some of these kids and really talk to them. This isn't the first time that he hasn't been able to come up with a math answer, okay, as quickly as some of the kids that used to learn the old way of it, where they had to memorize things and then they understood it. I had sat down with him at times to help him with Common Core when he was learning it, and I was confused as to how this was a better system than what it used to be. Okay? And I just wonder if that's going to continue. That's a concern of mine. Because, is that my 3 minutes? Is it up? Can I say a few more things?
If you want to put another minute on, if the board is okay with that.
Thank you. One of the other things was I read about the Chinese and the Japanese children learning calculus in 3rd and 4th grade, and yet the U.S. students seem to be far behind that. Another thing I wondered about was encouraging entrepreneurs in the schools and teaching them or how to be entrepreneurs in school. And one of the things I always thought about was to have the kids during the summer enlist or be assigned into a program where they would be happy to go out into the community and build businesses at an early age while they're in school, and help the community to do things that maybe some of the old people or the people who can't do for themselves would be grateful to have done for them, and then grade them and pay these kids and grade them on their entrepreneurship. I thought that would be something that would keep them company. They keep them learning all throughout the summer. And
that's 1 minute.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're more than welcome to email the board if you have other things that you weren't able to talk about this evening. You can email the board or Mr. Sable as well.
All right.
And I'd also encourage you to reach out to Tina Cassidy. She's our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, so she can definitely talk through many of your curricular questions and concerns with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. No, if there's no one else that would like to participate in public participation, we will move on to the treasurer's action items.
Yes, if it pleases the board. Item 1, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the February 23 Treasurer's Report. Item 2, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the following supplementals to the 22-23 permanent appropriations. We have monies going to the Ohio High School Athletic Association Fund. We have monies going to the Key Club, the Tech Club, and an increase to the Athletic Fund.
I'll make a motion to approve treasurer's action items G1 and G2.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. West. Thank you, Ms. Pritchard. Are there any questions or comments regarding these action items? Hearing none. Mr. Chambers?
Yes, Mr. West?
Yes.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
And Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sable, you're up.
Number one, it is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following donations. Several donations here that I would like to bring your attention to. The first is the almost $46,000 donation from our Medina High School athletic boosters. The donation is going to be utilized to update and upgrade the equipment within the weight room. There's also almost a $2,000 donation going to our high school vocal music department from the Medina County Arts Foundation, and that's to support their trip to Disney World in Florida. There's also the $1,200 donation, which was mentioned earlier with the computers. Thank you to Plastipack, and I know Mr. West is humble, but I'm sure he had a little of something to do in helping those come our way. But they are definitely appreciated and going to be put to good use. And then the very last one from an anonymous donor, it warms my heart to see these, but a $1,300 donation to the food service department, and we do receive those actually fairly regularly from community members to support our students who can't afford meals. Number two, field trip. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following overnight field trip in compliance with Policy 2340, and this was for the state wrestling tournament. Number three, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the revisions to the 24-25 district calendar. The board had approved revisions to the 23-24 calendar at our last regular board meeting. There's very similar revisions to this calendar. It just was not prepared to be presented at the time. The days on here that are listed for student days off, most of them are work days for staff. These are professional development days that are vitally important. Much of the work that you hear talked about at the top of our meetings from our buildings, that work with our students is possible because of the work our educators are able to do on these professional development days. To do those implementations in their classrooms across the buildings and across the district as well. In addition, I do want to point out that we have been having conversations as a county in terms of calendar start times. We have worked with the county to slightly move back the calendar start time. I do recognize it was slowly inching closer into August. That is feedback that I have received since I've been in the district, is our start time and possibly exploring a later start time. So we have had those discussions. One of the challenges that we do face is we do attempt to align calendars with the other districts, and this is to help our students and families that attend the Career Center so that they can be on similar calendars within a household. We will continue those conversations as well as what's best for our students here at Medina City Schools as well. But we are working on a collaborative effort countywide. Number 4, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreement, and this is with McGraw-Hill. And this is for a 7-year renewal contract, and this is for online material for Medina High School's college accounting course. And number 5 is personnel. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following personnel recommendations pending completion of all required paperwork to our Director of Human Resources. I do want to point out that this is such a long list because we have the non-renewals of many of our coaching supplemental contracts. In these positions, this is an annual thing that occurs within our athletic department. Many of these individuals, if most of these individuals, I'll say, will be back in these contracts. So it's just part of a contractual thing.
I'll make a motion to approve superintendent's action items age 1 through 5.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Any questions or comments regarding these action items?
I have 2 questions. How come we have 2 freshman baseball coaches listed? Are they half-time each, or just?
Hey, Jim's going to come up and share.
Okay.
We did have a teacher who was going to be freshman coach, and he ended up having to back out about 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So they are looking to, between the 2 of these, they're not positive how much they're going to be able to work yet, but they're trying to cover it by that way and piecing it together.
Okay.
So they're still to be determined.
Okay, thank you.
But they are both committed to doing it. They both just could not commit to the whole time yet.
Okay,
So.
thank you. And then my other question is, I agree with backing up the calendar, but then my question is, how does that affect the end of the first semester? That means that we're going to have to bump it back into January again, because otherwise you'll have one semester with not many days and then the other one with a ton of days. So, I mean, that would be something else that we would have to look into.
It is in terms of trying the best we can to make each semester equal. It already is not equal because there's no way we'd have to start so early in order to be able to do that. And if we back the calendar up, it makes that even more of an issue. So that is something we would have to explore. I do know, and being a former high school teacher and high school principal, that our students and staff as a whole prefer going on break after exams rather than coming back and having a week or 2 and then going into exams. And I've taught doing it both ways. So.
If I may, I would like to see, Mr. Jack is going to be retiring at the end of the year, and I'd like to give a shout out to him just because my younger son, Braden, had him twice and absolutely loved Mr. Jack, and he will miss Mr. Jack. So it's understand he's retiring and good for him, but it'll be a little sad to see him go. So.
I just wanted to thank the community and everyone and the athletic boosters for all of the very generous donations. We do have a very generous community, and we do appreciate that. I did have one question, and this might be, I don't know if we'll need Mrs. Cassidy for this, the service agreement. It says it's a Medina High School digital course. Is it perhaps just the online book? Okay, all right. I thought it was a class. It's an in-person class. It's just the online resources. Okay, thank you. If there's no other questions or comments, Mr. Chambers, please call roll.
Mr. Ross? Aye. Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the final item this evening, Medina Recreation Center, natatorium repairs. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the quote for repairs to the Medina Community Recreation Center leisure pool, lap pool, and spa at a total approximate cost of $1,481,704 million to allow the bid process. The Medina City School District will fund the total cost of the repairs, and the City of Medina will reimburse 100% of the cost of the spa repairs and the lift replacement and 50% of the remaining cost of repairs. So part of our agreement with the rec centers that we split costs. The rec center and city has agreed to take upon the responsibility of additional amounts with those costs due to their increased use of some of those facilities. And Mr. O'Cole had presented or shared some additional information on this at a previous meeting. It is important to note that the quotes did come in higher than we had initially expected them to. In reviewing the quotes with the rec center and going through them with Ryan, and I'm going to share my own opinion, and I think Ryan's on the same page. There were some areas where cutbacks could have been made to the repair costs. I think it was our feeling as a team that those cutbacks were not worth the reductions in price because it could hurt the longevity of the materials and the coatings on the pool that were being used. So the coatings that they're going to be using is what was previously put on the pool, which doubled the lifespan that it was supposed to live, as opposed to just using a plaster. So am I correct with all that, Ryan? Anything to add?
No, that's very good. That's the Diamond Bright material is the one that extended the life of the existing pool. So the pool was, this is the lap pool. It's the original surface. In 2011, they recoated the leisure pool. And by just recoating, that has not helped. It did not hold up as well. So this will be a take it down to the substrate and rebuild using the appropriate materials. Is again why the cost is more than just a recoating of the existing surface.
But when it was recoated, okay. All right, hold that thought.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Thank you, Ms. Pritchard.
I'll second action item I1.
Thank you, Mr. West. Mr. Ross?
So, Ryan, when it was recoated in 2011, that was not Diamond Bright?
No, it was Diamond Bright, but they did not remove, they didn't take it down to the substrate. They just covered over the existing material.
Okay, so this time it's Diamond Bright and it's you're going to
yes,
go
so
all the
they're
way
going to
down?
go all the way down. They're going to remove the existing material all the way down to the substrate and then put the new material over top.
So what's the word, warranty, or how long is that supposed to last?
Well, the warranty is very, in years, low. It has a 1-year manufacturer warranty. The life expectancy is 10 years.
10 years.
So we're hoping again for another 20-year surface by taking it all the way down to the substrate and doing it right.
Okay.
And that's what we didn't get in 2011 when we did the overlay of the leisure pool. But this is also the first time the lap pool's been done. So 20 years is the life that we got out of the first Diamond Bright coating.
Okay, and this is the lap pool, and then where the kids are, both of those, right? Pools?
Yeah, the leisure pool and the lap pool, correct.
And nothing to do with the outdoor pool at Memorial Park?
No, but so in this process, that's why we want to do this. That's, again, one of the options was to split the pools and do it over maybe 2 years, and I was going to advise against that as well. There's an increase in cost in doing so. By splitting those up,
Yeah.
you increase the mobilization cost and all the other cost of being on site. The other thing that happens when we do that is the rec center pool will be closed for 8 weeks, and we're going to do that over the summer, and they're going to extend memberships to the rec center to the outdoor pool at Medina for that time period.
Okay.
So yeah, those pool, we won't be doing anything with the pool, the outdoor city pool. Yeah.
Okay.
So this quote is what, double what we had anticipated?
Yes.
Okay, and I guess my only comment is, and our students get to use the pool that hasn't been fixed before, maybe for what, 3 months out of the year?
So the swim team uses the pool, that's correct. We also do, I believe we're going to do some summer classes this summer for life saving. Is that correct, Tina? No? I believe we are going to do, I thought we had a summer program for our students.
So we're not doing the second grade?
We are doing water safety.
Okay.
That's got their buildings.
Okay.
That's in there.
Okay.
We've been having discussion with the rec center on expanding that programming. That's in the works, though.
So, okay, so what Ms. Pritchard just mentioned, so the cost doubled. So is that like an inflation thing? I mean, what made it go so high?
Yeah, there's a lot of, so there's some cost in here based on, the Brandstetter Carrolls are architectural engineers for this project. They just finished Strongsville's project. One of the things that's an increase is the lane markers, the tiles on the bottom of the pool that we use for the swim team. When they take out that existing surface, there's a good chance of those getting damaged. So those are 1 by 1 1-inch tiles. They're going to be replacing with 2-inch tiles because the 1 by 1s are very labor intensive to install. So in order to ensure that we get all of the tiles to be the same color and throughout the lap lanes, we're just going to have them replace those. So that's why you see the demo, the tile, and then new tile for the pool lane markers.
And Ryan, at this time, this is an estimate to go out to the bidders,
Yeah, this
correct?
is yes, that's exactly right. This estimate is prepared by our architectural engineer, and once we do that, then we open it up. So you approving this bid is allowing us to go out and get bids for the project. So this is what they expect it to cost, but we're not exactly sure what the final project cost will be. But these numbers are all based on them just finishing the Strongsville project.
Yep. And once the project goes out to bid, we would need to come back to the board, and the board would have to approve what the actual contract would be.
So does Strongsville have 2 pools? Do they have a leisure pool and a?
I believe they do, yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
I couldn't remember.
How many bids do you think you anticipate getting, just out of curiosity?
I don't exactly know. I mean, this is my first go around in the pools. I don't know how many contractors in Northeast Ohio do indoor pools. So I think it's a limited number that you have that bid on this. But from the bids in 2011, we had 3 bidders on that project. So I would expect at least 3.
And I just wanted to remind the board that the cost breakdown is in accordance with the joint operating agreement that we have with the city. So I believe once the bids go out and we approve, the city will also
Yeah, the city will then have to approve it on their end as well. And then the one thing to definitely keep in mind that Aaron already mentioned was the city of Medina is going to take up 100% of the spa and the lift, and those are the handicap accessible lifts that are at the hot tub and the leisure pool. So because we don't, the school does not use those, the city was going to take 100% of that cost.
And we do appreciate that. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, thank you, Mr. O'Call.
Thank you.
Mr. Chambers?
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I'd like to request a motion to go to executive session to consider the appointment, employment, discipline, or compensation of a public employee or official, and for discussion with the board's legal counsel of disputes involving the board that are the subject of pending or imminent court action.
I'll make a motion to move to executive session.
Thank you, Mr. West.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. If there are no questions or comments from the board, Mr. Chambers?
Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will note that we will not be taking any kind of action after we return from executive session. Thank you all for coming this evening. Enjoy the rest of your night.